Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
To our respected Madam Shukriya binti Sa'ad, we are Nabila Ibrahim,
Nur Sabina binti Sabri, Marjatul Huda binti Muhammad Salim.
we are from 5F would like to present about Mark 603 about international trade. International trade is the exchange of services, goods and capital among various countries and regions without much hindrance. The imports are purchases and export are sales to foreign countries.
The need of international trade is due to uneven distribution of natural resources, climate condition, growth rate, technology, and professional management.
Lastly, the importance of international trade is as a source of revenue for developing a country. In order to know more about international trade, let's watch our video presentation.
Advantages of international trade. Firstly, optimal use of natural resources. International trade helps each country to make optimal use of its natural resources such as oil, gold, coal, and etc. Each country can concentrate on production of those goods for which its resources are best suited. Wastage of resources is avoided, which means no misuse of production factors. Secondly, international cooperation and understanding. The people of different countries come in contact with each other. It brings friendly relations with other countries. Commercial intercourse amongst nations of the world encourages employment opportunities, educational scholarship, and also exchange of ideas and culture. It creates cooperation, understanding, and cordial relations amongst the various nations. Thirdly, diverse products and services. Goods are produced not only for home consumption but for export to other countries. Foreign trade turns the world into a giant market, delivering food, fashion, and etc. New services such as banking, travel, and consultation are also available now. Businesses competition is no longer on a city scale. Instead, businesses compete against worldwide businesses. The result is better quality goods, lower in prices, and functional design. Lastly, new technology. With the development of trade relation, they can transfer improved method, machinery for invention and innovation. New technology also promotes competitiveness and profitability. If a business could create a machine that works better, faster or cheaper, then the business will have produced a more competitive product for national and international markets. The disadvantages that exist when international trade occurs between two countries should not be ignored. First, political issues. International trade often encourages subjugation and slavery. It impairs economic independence with endangers political dependence. Precious commodities such as gold, diamond, oil, or farmland are so important for countries to have control that wars have been started. For example, Britishers came to India as traders and ultimately ruled over India for a very long time. Second, unemployment. When capitalists find that importing goods can give them more profit than producing it in their local market, they prefer to import the goods from other countries, which this may lead to unemployment in the local market. Lastly, storage of goods. Sometimes the essential commodities required in a country and in short supply are also exported to earn foreign exchange. The result in shortage of these goods at home can cause inflation. For example, India has been exporting sugar to earn foreign exchange, hence the exorbitant prices of sugar in the country.
What is the factor that may influence international trade? There is a 5 factor that may influence international trade. First, this is made due to the difference in resources. Second, different comparative advantages. Third, existence of economic skills. And the last one is difference in demands.
First, let's take a look to the difference in resources. Each country has different allocations of natural and human resources. A given country will be well suited to the productions of some goods and totally unsuited to the productions of others. Particularly in the field of agriculture, the difference in climates can be immense. It is simply impossible to grow certain agricultural products in the certain countries. The consequence of that is that some countries will go without some essential goods unless they trade with other countries. For example, Japan may be able to produce technological goods of superior quality, but it may lack of natural resources. What is the solution? It may be trade with Indonesia for inputs. Second, different comparative advantages. What is the comparative advantages? Comparative advantages is the ability of individual or group to carry out a particular economic activity, such as making a specific product more efficiently than another activity. Countries benefit from producing goods in which they have a comparative advantages and trading them for goods in which other countries have the comparative advantage. For example, US imported clothes from other countries, even though they can produce clothes by itself, but they are more focused on the other things that they are able to producing, like pharmaceutical, jet turbines, generators, and aircraft all over the world. Second, existence of economies of scale in production. The existence of economies of scale in production is sufficient to generate advantageous trades between two countries. Economies of scale refer to the production process in which production costs fall as the scales of production rises. With specialization and production on the largest scale than may be possible domestically, a country may be able to gain more economies of scale. This will lead to the lower average cost and benefits consumers through lower prices. For example, China exports high scales of products throughout the country. This can reduce the production cost, and the consumer of the other country can buy the Chinese product at lower prices instead of buying their local product. Lastly, the factor that influence international trade may be due to the difference in demand. Trade can occur between countries if demands or preference differ between countries. Individuals in different countries may have different preferences or demands for various products. For example, Chinese are likely to demand more rice than Americans. Even if consumers face the same prices, Canadians may demand more beer, the Dutch more wooden shoes, and the Japanese more fish than Americans would, even if they all face the same prices.
Before I explain what are the effects of free trade agreements on the economies of the countries, let me define what is meant by free trade agreement. Free trade agreement is an agreement between two or more countries to establish a free trade area where commerce in goods and services can be conducted across their common borders without tariff or obstacle. So, from this free trade agreement, what will be the effects to the economies of the countries? Firstly, it can reduce the poverty. This is because from free trade agreement, it can decrease the price of all sorts of consumer goods and services, from vegetables to cars, which is due to the elimination and reduction of tariff from government. For example, the FTA between the region and US is responsible for a moderate decrease in overall poverty and inequality. Secondly, it also can increase the benefits of consumers. This is because they can increase the access to less expensive of higher quality foreign goods. Thus, producers from both local and foreign goods will struggle and compete to produce the best product at the lower cost in order to survive in the solid market competition. And from this healthy competition, most of the benefits will be received by the consumers as they're being served by plenty of product choices. But the free trade agreement also will give negative impact to the economy of the country. Firstly, it can hurt some workers and industries, which may lead to increase in unemployment. This is because reducing tariff on imports allow the foreign companies to market and distribute their product rapidly in the local market, which is difficult to local companies to compete in the industries. From the decline in the local consumption of local products and services, it will make many local companies have to surrender from the industries and can lead to increase in unemployment. Besides that, free trade agreement also will reduce the tax revenues of the countries. As we know, free trade agreement will reduce or eliminate tariff of goods and services from all the member countries that have signed the agreement. Without import tariff and fees, many smaller countries must find other ways to replace the country revenue.
What is a factor that might cause the changes in the foreign exchange rate? Before we go through, let's take a look. What is the meaning of exchange rate? The exchange rate is defined as the rate at which one country's currency may be converted into another. It may fluctuate daily with the changing market forces of supply and demands of currency from one country to another. There are some of the leading factors that influence the variations and fluctuations in exchange rates and explains the reasons behind their volatility. This may be due to the inflation rate. Secondly, current account deficit. Thirdly, political stability and performance. And lastly, public debt. Now let's take a look to the inflation rates. Changes in the market inflation causes changes in the currency exchange rate. A country with lower inflation rates than another will see an appreciation in the value of its currency. The prices of goods and services increases at a lower rate where the inflation is low. A country with a consistently low inflation rate exhibits a rising currency value, while the country with the higher inflation typically sees depreciation in its currencies and is usually accompanied by a higher interest rate. Secondly, current account deficit. The current account deficit is the balance of trade between a country and its trading partner, reflecting all payments between countries for goods, services, interest, and dividends. A deficit in the current account shows the country is spending more on foreign trade than it is earning, and that is a borrowing capital from foreign sources that make up the deficit. In other words, the country requires more foreign currency than it receives through sales of exports, and it supplies more of its own currency than foreigners' demands for its product. The excess demand for foreign currency lowers the currency's exchange rate until domestic goods and services are cheap enough for foreigners, and foreign assets are too expensive to generate sales for domestic interests. Thirdly, public debt. Countries will engage in the large-scale deficit financing to pay for public sector projects and governmental funding. While such activities stimulate the domestic economy, nations with large public deficits and debts are less attractive to foreign investors. A large debt encourages inflation, and if inflation is high, the debt will be serviced and ultimately paid off with cheaper real dollar in the future. In the worst scenario, a government may print money to pay part of the large debt, but increasing the money supply inevitably causes inflation. Last but not least, the factor that might cause the changes of foreign exchange rates is maybe due to the political stability and performance. Foreign investors inevitably seek out stable countries with strong economic performance in which to invest their capital. A country with such positive attributes will draw investment funds away from other countries perceived to have more political and economic risks. Political turmoil, for example, can cause a loss of confidence in a currency and a movement of capital to the currencies of more stable currency.
There are two possible changes in foreign exchange rates. Firstly, the dollar appreciates, and secondly, the dollar depreciates. So, what will be the impacts to the international trade when the dollar appreciates? If the dollar appreciates, the value of dollar will be valuable as compared to other currencies, which means that other currencies will appear very inexpensive to US. As US can buy other currency more cheaply, the prices of other countries' products appear lower to US. And at the lower prices, the quantity of demand will increase, which makes the demand for import foreign goods increases. But when the value of dollar increases, buyers from other countries will see US currency as being very expensive. As a result, the prices of US products will appear more expensive to them. Therefore, the quantity demanded of US export will fall. So, we can conclude that the resulting impact of strong dollar is a trade deficit to US countries, where the import will rise and the export will fall. And when the dollar depreciates, the previous concept also can be applied. But the difference is when the dollar depreciates, the dollar value will be less valuable to other currencies, which make other currencies appear expensive to US. So, when the US has a weak dollar value, the foreign import goods will get more expensive and the US export to other countries will be more cheaper. Therefore, the quantity demanded for US export will rise and the demand for import goods will decrease. So, the impact of dollar depreciation is trade surplus, where the amount of export more than the amount of import.
Trade surplus. Trade surplus occur when the value of country's export exceeds that its import. It is an economic measure of a positive balance of trade. It is also represent a net inflow of domestic currency from foreign markets. Okay, why it is important in the management of economic of a country? Trade surplus important to country as it has more control of its currency and reduces the risk of another country selling it off, which would undermine the value of the currency. A trade surplus is generally thought to be a good indicator of the economic health of a nation. This is because it can make it cheaper to purchase imports and prevent purchases from becoming more expensive. Trade surpluses also can help to generate employment and increase the rate of GDP growth. However, nearly an equal number insist that the balance of the trade of a nation has negligible effect on economic expansion. Nations with higher savings rate generally post trade surpluses. For example, Germany and Japan, which have savings surpluses, typically post trade surpluses every year. China, in a rapidly growing economy, has tended to run trade surpluses. Trade deficit. Trade deficit occurs when import exceeds export. It is an economic measure of a negative balance of trade. It is also represent an outflow of domestic currency of foreign markets. The same goes to trade deficit. Why this measure is important in management of economy of a country? The importance of trade deficit to country is to interpret that a nation is facing economic weaknesses. This is result from deficiencies in the home country's economic output, and excess of loss of imports over export comes at the expense of domestic productions and jobs. For example, the loss of millions of manufacturing jobs in the United States over the past decade is due to the trade deficit. In addition, trade deficit also important because it will represent a sacrifice of future growth. This is because a nation with a trade deficit is purchasing more than it produces. Investment in future growth is being traded for consumption in the present.